Hey, this is Rich Redmond, and you're listening to the Drums and Rum Podcast.
Hey all, this is Paul from Drums and Rums, where the backbeats meets the spirits. Our guest is a motivational speaker, award-winning drummer, actor, and author who is based in Nashville and Los Angeles. He's a dynamic performer who tours and records with many of today's top musical artists such as Jason Aldean, Garth Brooks, Ludacris. That's an interesting one. And then Kid Rock. He's played drums and percussion on 28 number one singles with sales well over 20 million mark. He's also appeared on many TV shows such as Saturday Night Live, The Voice, American Idol, Grammys, and The Tonight Show. He's the creator of Crash Course for Success, a motivational drumming event where he brings schools, corporations, events around the world. And he's also an adjunct facility member at Musicians Institute in Hollywood and the Drummers Collective in New York City. He's written books and acted in TV and movies, as well as he's the Country Drummer of the Year by Modern Drummer Magazine in 2015, 16, 17, and 18. He's a man who loves his audience, inspires people with his passion and talent. Oh, and I almost forgot. He's a fellow podcaster. Let's get right to it. Welcome to the show, Rich Redmond. How you doing, Rich?
Paul, thanks for having me, man. We've been on this for a while, man.
Yeah. No worries. It's funny is when I started this out back before lockdown happened, and I see also you'd started the podcast before lockdown, so it wasn't a pandemic hobby or thing to do, kind of keep you busy, right? And I started it off, and but I've told the story probably many times, is being in Nashville back in December of 2019 is when it just clicked. I had this idea, kind of, let me do something, let me run with it. And the two local little projects I was working on were music little gigs, was just kind of fell by the wayside. So now here I am in January of 2020. We're not locked down yet. And I was like, what am I going to do? I need an outlet. I need something creative outlet. Thus started the podcast. And it's been a journey. So, but yeah, so definitely thanks for coming on. Yeah, you're right. No worries. I know when people hit up people on social media, it goes into we don't quite know you. You're going to go into this other folder here that
No. The first thing I did was check out your podcast. I was like, I like drums. Okay, this seems like a fun guy. I see what he's doing here. And a lot of podcasts were born in the lockdown. A lot of bread was baked in the lockdown. A lot of interesting new hobbies were starting. But the thing is, you're the real deal. You're still doing it, man. Which means you got some traction. You enjoy doing it. I love it. It's not a huge moneymaker, podcasting. There's so much noise out there. I mean, if you can break through like a Joe Rogan, fantastic. If you're first on the scene, like a Mark Maron, these are the OGs. But it is so fun because I know so many musicians, so many creatives, and they're just changing the world with their gift, and you want to shine a light on these people, and so it's almost like a calling. I have to, how it is. You got to do the research, become familiar with your guest body of work. You got to book them, then you got to do the thing and edit, load it up. I mean, it's a lot. People don't read. That's why people were like, "Oh, I'm out." You know what I mean?
after I think it's seven or 8 episodes is the average. I think people like, I've had enough.
Yeah. No, it's a calling. It's like there's a lot of things that we do in the creative arts that are not for money. There's actually a lot of people who will tell you never focus on the money, just follow your bliss, follow the art, and eventually, hopefully, that will fall in line with things. I think that art. I'm an artist. I'm also a craftsman, and so I think the truth is somewhere in the middle because we have to be able to put a roof overhead. And I like Dave's bread. It's more expensive. I got expensive tastes. I can go to Walmart and get a hoodie, but no, I go to John Varvatos and pay 4 times the amount I'm supposed to. We got to work,
Right.
So, so I think that the truth is somewhere in the middle there.
Yeah, that's so true. And yeah, I've been doing it since, like I said, 2020 and sticking with it, and have had some great guests on. Everything I've listened to your show. I've listened to shows that you've done with other people, and obviously pre-show research, and I got the chance to have Dom on, and and I still hold that episode was like, before he was his medical stuff was known to larger audience, was just it's like, man, this guy is amazing. How his age and how energetic and how and I picked that up off of you too, Rich.
Mm.
Is like how do you're doing a lot of things. You're very energetic, and then we'll talk a little bit about obviously the crash system and but yeah, I mean how do you keep going with all this stuff, man? You got a lot of irons in the fire.
Yeah, man. I think that we're entrepreneurs, and Dom, God rest his soul, was a dear influence and a friend, and he covered a lot of bases. He was a world class educator who was also a world class publisher, author, event MC. So I stole a lot from him. So you just kind of have to do like evaluate like what are your strengths in life and what are the gifts that God gave you. And like I've got, I have a teacher's heart. First of all, I'm a performer. So like live, studio, touring, I wanted to do all that. And then I have a teacher's heart. I love teaching. As soon as you learn something and get really good at something and you're one step ahead of your student, everybody could be a teacher. And teaching is great because it shows you the why and the how you do what you do. So it strengthens your skill set along the way and you get to make a difference in people's lives. And then I was like, well, I'm a great writer. I was on the yearbook staff. I should crank out some books. And then I have the gift of gab. I mean, don't give me a microphone. I love it. You know what I mean? So I was like, all right, give me the microphone. I can host this event. I can study voiceover. I can host a podcast. I could do motivational speaking. So when you have all these kind of things these are all things that are kind of related to my natural gifts. I look at a calendar and there's never any empty days. You're going to be able to be more likely to make a living in the creative arts when you diversify, but it's still all music and education and entertainment. I call it edutainment. And that's where I like to live, man,
Yeah. So, I listened to another podcast. You mentioned that you didn't have any musical influences growing up. You were the black sheep, I think you called yourself, of the family. But
Yeah.
how did that come about without having that surrounding at a young age?
Yeah. I love people that they've got that polite nepotism where it's like, yeah, my dad's a famous producer. Of course I'm going to get a record deal. Like that happens all the time, or my dad was an amazing producer and he left me all of his gear and now I own this world-class studio. I mean, it just wasn't like that for me. I just got the bug. I was hitting everything in sight. But I will say this, my dad politely nudged me in the direction of getting drum lessons because they're like, what are we going to do with this kid's comic book energy? Let's get him get a healthy outlet here. Because I wasn't a sportsitarian. I wasn't like a natural athlete. Like later in life, I discovered my athleticism. But earlier in life, it was just all about, okay, this is going to be a natural outlet for me, the drums. I have this calling. And my dad encouraged it. Like what parents encourage drumming? They're like, maybe
Right.
flute, maybe clarinet,
Yeah, something that's not going to make a lot of noise when you're practicing, and whenever you're learning an instrument, it's always going to sound terrible at first. So you have to go through the good.
And I don't know about you. You and I might be a men of a certain age, but we probably grew up around MTV, and it's like, what? There's this concept of like ESPN, it's sports 24 hours a day. That'll never work. And they're like, look, this is music videos 24 hours a day. So our lives were all the richer for it. We can go, oh my God, look at the Police, look at Van Halen, look at Kaja Gugu, look at it was a mix of the new wave stuff and then the metal. And I was just, I love the Police. I loved Van Halen. Those are my first drugs, my first entry into the music business and saying, look I want to do this. And thank God I did that. And then also my parents were a great role model in the sense that they were highly educated, highly motivated, self-starters. And so I was the kid that raked leaves and had a paper route and shoveled snow. And I never had to be asked to do those things. I was just very entrepreneurial. It's like, I want to buy those Star Wars figures, so I'm going to go rake leaves,
Right. Go if you want it, go get it. That's good. So going from that young age though, and growing up, I guess through your high school years and so forth, is like a lot of guys, I guess, that are in Nashville. You ended up at University of North Texas, right? Great music school, right? Great music program. Because I know we talked a little before about when I was up in Nashville. We're taking Jim's drum dojo weekend, and I know he's an alum also too. But
great, Jim's a great educator.
That was how did you get exposed to go up to UNT?
Well, my dad, I was, like I said, I was like a straight A kid, and I was like, I auditioned for the McDonald's All Star Band, and I was in the Texas All State Concert Band, and then I was on all the jazz bands. I was just very involved with, that the academic side of music, and then I always had my own bands on the weekends and stuff. And my dad and mom were just like, "You could study music. We'll pay for it, but you're going to college." You know what I mean? It's like, I think nowadays parents will look at like the prices of college and they'll be like, go to YouTube University, like learn a trade, learn another skill set. And if you don't really want to do this, I don't necessarily want to have to pay the $60,000 a semester that it costs to go to a Berkeley or a Belmont. You get out of school with $250,000 worth of debt. So I was an in-state tuition guy. My parents were just like, you're going to school. So I hit it off with this fantastic educator, Alan Shin at Texas Tech University. God rest his soul. We just lost him a year ago, about a year and a half ago. And he was my mentor. And he encouraged me to go get my bachelor's degree at Texas Tech University because I was a big fish in a small pond. There was about 30 percussion majors, but every semester I got to be in the percussion ensemble, the marching band, the concert band, the small group jazz band, the basketball band, the big band, steel drum ensemble, like I played all day, every day for about 4.5 years. And then I went to North Texas State. And while I was there, my goal was to play in the 1 O'Clock Lab Band, which is like the greatest collegiate jazz band in the world. They record, they tour. They're basically a professional band. And while I was there, they were like, hey, 30 credits, you'll have a master's degree. Might as well get it. Thank God I did that because, teaching at the Musicians Institute, they prefer a master's degree. I created a program at the University of North Alabama. I did that for 2 years, and then I passed it on to a friend of mine, Tom Hurst. He's a great drummer. But that was a requirement to have a master's degree. So that's as far as I'm going. I'm basically, I'm an overeducated rock drummer. I mean, I make a living doing what I fell in love with and wanted to do when I was 14 years old. And then I just got overeducated and tried to basically cover all the bases like a Greg Bissonette, like be able to play on a theme to Friends or play on a movie score or go play Latin music or go do double bass with David Lee Roth or, so I was like, then play with Ringo and be able to, I was like, I want to cover all those bases and then see what the world throws at me. And the world threw at me this guy named Jason Aldean. He was this young, hungry dude that wanted to take the world, by fire. And we did it, man. And that was, met him in 1999. So 25 years, man.
Wow.
25. Yeah.
Time just flew by, right? I mean,
really, it really did. I'm thinking to myself, my God, I'm an OG now. How did that happen? Because when I came on the scene, you're always one of the youngest cats in the room. And then before you know it, now people are like, hey, man, can you give me advice? And that's why I wrote the book, Making It in Country Music, an insider's look at the industry. It's a brand new book. You can call up your friend Jeff Bezos on Amazon.com. He'll deliver a dead tree to your door, or you can download it to your Kindle, your iPad. And that's basically, it took 1 year to write, but it was 25 years in the making.
So how did that transition from what sounds like you grew up as a rock influenced style, and jazz at the UNT, and then now performing with the currently I would say argument, right, the most biggest country band out there now, right? So that's
he's very popular. I would never take that away from him. We've been able to accomplish some unbelievable things together. But this Morgan Wallen kid and this Luke Combs kid are doing pretty darn good.
Yeah, that's true. So, all right, one of the top bands. How about that?
Oh yeah, well, I would say one of the top. I mean, and our music gave permission to a lot of people to do what they do, which is good,
And I think what Rich is, and that's something that struck me about being in Nashville, because I was never a country guy, never kind of got exposed. Growing up in the Northeast before moving to Florida, was always a rock guy. My parents came over here, and they to the U.S. back in the '60s, and they were from the UK.
From where? Oh, UK.
Scotland. So both my parents came over here, and so I'm a first gen. And of course, being a kid in the backseat of the car, growing up, listening to the Beatles, the Stones, all the Brit invasion stuff. So I was very much, but never had been exposed to anything else. MTV, like you said, comes out. and it's just all rock mostly, at least at that time. So I never really had that exposure to country music until, I went to Nashville and got a little bit more immersed. And I was like, all right, I love it. There's music everywhere. Seeing everybody hustle, and like you mentioned, that you get a couple irons in a fire. That's an important thing to do. And then I don't know why it took so much longer in life for me to say, musician first. That's probably the one thing that I took away was any advice I can probably give somebody who wants to go into music is musician first, band second. Because this will give you a career, a trade in music. The band thing to go run off in high school band and go tour, it's gonna end at some point,
Yeah. Yeah, you're only good as your weakest link. That's why it's so difficult to get the brass ring as a band, because first of all, labels don't want to sign bands. They only want to have one point of contact, to manage. Otherwise, it's like herding cats. You know what I mean? Like 6 people signed to a record deal. It's like, oh God, well, the bass player is always fighting with the keyboard player, and then so it's really hard to make that thing happen. So bands have gone out of favor, and it's just really hard to do because somebody always, like I said, gets pregnant, has a drug problem, quits the music business, and then like, what are you going to do? But when you're you against the world, you could just, that as a freelance musician, someone is always going to need a qualified drummer that shows up with a firm handshake and can take direction and is sober and has great gear, and maybe they could read music, and you'll always work, which is a great thing. And then, our situation was something a little bit in the middle. It was kind of like a hybrid, because we had 4 guys for many years that were just doing the thing, taking the music to the people, before we added a second guitar player, before we added a steel player, before all the buses and the trucks and the production. It was just 4 dudes just trying, like a motorcycle gang, man, just taking the music to the people. And it was old school marketing. It wasn't TikTok. It wasn't social media. I mean, the only thing we had at the time was a brand new MySpace and flip phones. And so literally Jason was probably one of the last recording artists to do it old school. Get in the van, let's go, which is cool.
God, we're showing our age, aren't we?
Oh boy, flip phones.
Yeah, AOL. So
you've got mail.
Somebody said, I really missed that whole got mail or hello when you're, or goodbye or whatever.
Yeah.
So in the meantime here, so you're getting ready to head out, and you're a tour coming up here. First stop is in Louisiana in April, and then you'll be hitting Fort Lauderdale, so not far. So for the
dude,
festival. Have you done that festival before?
Is that the Tortuga?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this will be our second or third time. It's really nice. Okay. It's like right on the water, and our friend Brian O'Connell there at Live Nation, he just goes above and beyond. There's like a bar on the sand there, and there's like masseuses, and you get your hair cut, and you could play Pac-Man, and you can get 4 meals a day, and it's great. I mean, it's like, you're going to be stuck like sitting next to the beach, you want to have some cool things. So that Live Nation is great, man. They really take care of it.
I know right now is you're sitting there in Nashville, all bundled up there on the screen, and you're looking forward to hitting Florida soon.
Yeah, I'm inside, and I'm wearing a hoodie and a beanie. Yeah, I just didn't want to do my hair, Paul. It's I've got a pretty quick hairdo compared to some other musicians I know, but I just I throw on the beanie sometimes,
Yeah, no, I've seen pictures. You've got a good coiffed hair there.
I still have my hair at my age. Yay!
So what's your I guess for this tour then? What's your drum configuration? I guess we got to start talking drums at some point, because
drums and rum. Right. You know what my thing is that I'm a loud person, but the finish of my drums is always I try to go classic. So like piano black, matte black, black sparkle, red sparkle, black and red sparkle. So I'm always like, I don't know if you can tell behind me, but I just like black and red. That's my branding. Black, red, silver, very masculine colors. So this year is going to be the second year that I use my DW Collector Series piano black finish. And I was inspired because a lot of times we'll play television shows. You have to rent a backline drum set, like in New York City or Los Angeles, doing various things. And sometimes this basic piano black kit shows up, and everyone's like, God, that sounds great. Oh, it's just so classic looking. So I had a matte black finish out, like I called them Darth Vader drums, for about 5 years. And so this is my second year with the piano black. It's just classic. So 13, 16, 18, 24 by 16. a Black Beauty style snare drum, and Sabian pies, two 20-inch crashes, a 22-inch ride cymbal. I love big hats. I play them in stereo on an X hat to my right, with a pedal, and I playing 16-inch AAX Explosion hi-hats, and then the greatest China cymbal of all time, the Holy China, which is just a nice burst of energy. And there's some, rolling pads and a rolling trigger pedal and a cowbell, various percussion. I keep it pretty basic. Like, for the most part, if you take away the second floor tom, the cowbell, the X hat, it's basically just a 4-piece Ringo drum set, and that's really where I'm comfortable. If you can't do it on a 4-piece kit, you're doing something wrong,
Right. Yeah, going back to Ringo, I saw him last, what years? I know, now that we're in a new year, summer 2022 here in Fort Lauderdale, and seeing him and Greg play, and I was like, was awesome, to see the both of them play together. And then Ringo got it.
Yeah, dude, he's so healthy. He's got his body and his mind. You know what I mean? It's like usually people just lose one or the other, or the body goes to hell, and they gain weight, and then they just can't do their job anymore. And so he's rail thin and very spunky, very quick-witted.
It's something about maybe that outlook on he's very positive, less stress and things. I know he had some health issues, but it was like, man, he's still out there running around, and McCartney, Stones, all those guys are still out there doing it.
Totally.
So
that's how I want to go, man.
What's that?
That's how I want to go. 1, 2, 3. That's how I'm going.
I think that happened to somebody. I remember reading a story.
Redmond didn't make it to the Flam on beat 4. He died right between 3 and 4.
You're out. You're out of the band.
Horrible. Yeah.
Well, yeah, literally out of the band.
Ouch.
So growing up, though, some of those drummers who you kind of emulate growing up.
Oh, yeah. Stewart, for sure, because he just had such an insanely unique style. And I would just watch MTV all the time. And the Police had a live recording from, I think, the Omni in Atlanta, with the 3 background singers. They were wearing marching band outfits, and so cute. I had a great time watching that over and over and over. So Stewart, Alex from the 1984 record, so that's your gateway with the Rototoms. Then you go back, you learn the rest of the catalog. I loved Kenny with the Mellencamp band. And then my dad, Bissonette with David Lee Roth. I went to go see them at the El Paso Coliseum. That was incredible. And, my dad was always into big band, like Krupa, so I checked out like Krupa, and then, Krupa kind of passed the torch to the Dino Danellis and the John Bonhams and the Carmine Appices. And so I really loved Carmine. He had that book, Realistic Rock. And my dad took me to see him in El Paso, Texas, when he had a band called King Cobra. And I went right to the edge of the stage, and Carmine had the glow-in-the-dark drum. They're playing like a really big club, like maybe like a 500-seater club or something in El Paso, sold out, glow-in-the-dark drumsticks, gong drums, 2 bass drums, all the stick twirling and licking. And I was like, oh my God, that's great. I'm a natural showman, but I stole a lot from those guys,
Right. Yeah, you gotta give something to the crowd, right? It's not just about the audio, but it's also the visual experience too, that people can see you're enjoying it, you're having fun, you're into it, there's energy. And rather than, somebody just sitting there, just keeping the beat and holding back. And
yeah,
right.
Boring.
So, the other projects that we talked about was, it was podcasting, acting, writing, the motivational speaker. So first, the podcast, I guess, why'd you start the podcast?
Well, I just know so many great folks that are changing the world. Like, how many, I'm fortunate that I can call up, Kenny and Brian Fraser Moore and Mark Schulman and, Jason Sutter and all the greatest rock country drummers in Nashville, the Eddie Bearses, the Lonnie Wilsons, the Greg Morrows, the Chad Cromwells, the Paul Limes. These guys are friends, so having, a nice conversation, catching up with them in a public forum, it exists forever. Content is king. It shines a light on them. And it's also a means to an end for me, because in my mid 40s, I just wanted to the drumming it's rocking. It's going down the highway. I've got a great job. I'm busy all the time. I wanted to learn some other skill sets, so I studied TV hosting and voiceover acting and improv comedy, and I've been doing the motivational speaking for long time, over 15 years. And so it was just another way for me to think on my feet. I mean, that's what you're doing right now. You've done a little bit of research, you kind of like get the essence, the DNA of your guest, and then you just kind of create an enjoyable, free-flowing conversation. I used to have a podcast called Pick Rich's Brain. I think there's about 20 episodes, and we filmed it, and I wanted it to be very very buttoned up. Like I wanted to be like a Mario Lopez, Ryan Seacrest type interview, with no ums, buts, and cue cards and the whole deal. And that was cool, but it wasn't as well received as what we're doing now, which is me and my buddy Jim McCarthy just kind of kibitzing with our guests. And everybody always says the same thing after every episode. Well, that was fun. So Jim and I are thinking about all these little catchphrases that happen during the show, and that's one of them. Well, that was fun, and that's great when your guest gives you an hour, sometimes two. We had Chris Kimmerer on from the Zach Brown band. He gave me 2 hours of his time, and we could have kept going and going and going. So I think it's time well spent.
Yeah, and it's that was always the same genesis of this show was, even the words in the name of the title of the show it can put some people off, and some people flat out told me, well, I don't drink rum, I don't do anything with that. It's like, so it's a little detriment to myself, but it was just a couple things, as you can see behind me, right, is two things I went into, and I think it's catchy, it works together and so forth, and custom made bar shelves, actually.
Dude, I love it. So is this your man cave downstairs with your drums and your rums?
There's no basements in Florida, but I guess
call it
a man
cave. yeah, your man cave. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my folks are in Florida. They're in Port Charlotte. So
okay.
I'm always seeing them. I just saw them for Christmas. And my relationship with rum is, I mean, I have a healthy relationship with alcohol. I love pinkies out, sipping a nice Merlot or Italian wine with a friend. I love a good martini. I love a good old fashioned. Rum, I get to less. I just get to less. So educate me. What's a great rum if you're not going to drink the sugary Parrot Bay, Captain Morgan stuff?
Yeah. So like most people, as I went down into this path, excuse me, and started learning more about it, was exactly what everyone feels. It's all made of sugar. It's super sweet and so forth. And 50% of the market is controlled by Bacardi and Captain Morgan. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Most people always have a bad story about Malibu, and Malibu's not even right. Malibu's not even 80 proof, which is one of the levels that rum is supposed to be at. But if you were looking for, are you a bourbon guy?
Yeah, sure.
So a lot of rum distillers now are aging their rum in ex-bourbon barrels.
Oh,
so they're getting the the tannins and the flavors coming out of the barrel and the wood. So like if you get a 4 square, if you go to the liquor store, I think anything that you're looking at maybe $50 to $60, you probably won't be too bad. Now there's that other side of it too, is where you may have some that will put some type of sweetening or something on the afterwards, because all that sugar burns off, right, through the distilling process. So there's no sugar left. So if it's unaltered, then there's no sugar. But some will add something to the after effect to get a coloring effect or whatnot. So you go something with like a 4 square, Hampton, some of them, and there's some that like Haitian rums, and some of the Claren, that some of those got some real funky Jamaican rums, real funky, right? My wife, she's not a big, she likes to stay in her little small comfortable area, and because that some of these ones are a little bit too much for her. The flavor is just a little bit explosive.
Intense.
So yeah. So yeah, I would say it's like something like a Hampton. There's quite. I'm sure most of these are all from guests that I've had on. I'm sure they.
What about Stroh's? You ever heard of Stroh's?
Yep, 150.
That thing is very, very powerful.
Yep. So
you just need like a little capful. Paul's getting up to get some Stroh's.
Yep. No, I actually don't have any Stroh's actually, but This was but I appreciate you the narrating while I was golf camera.
It's the training.
So there's this is where's the camera there? There you go. Holmes Key.
Oh yeah.
So this is we had them on, also fellow musician too. So Eric K, he is owner of Holmes Key. He sources from all around the world. He's an independent bottler. This is a let me see if I can read this in the dark here. I can't see what the proof is, but anyway, so it's got a kick to it. So this is definitely a good Belize 13-year rum. So there's stuff that's aged is probably something that if you're really wanting to try something as a sipper with some ice or neat.
I think and that's gonna say, like, how do you do it? Do you just pour it neat? Do you pour it on a big cube? Do you mix it?
Well, yeah, I mean something. Well, I don't know if I'll probably be blaspheming, but something like this is age, a dark age rum here, is you can make a Manhattan or an old fashioned with it.
Oh, okay.
Just substitute the whiskey or the scotch with it. Same ingredients. It has the same body because it came from the barrel. And again, there's a whole lot of purists. I think a lot of the bourbon snobs moved into the rum world now because they're starting to see a lot of that whole, well, that ain't rum what you're drinking. It's like, oh boy, can we get along?
Well, what do you pair it with? Are you got like you gotta have like Caribbean food or coconut shrimp or something like that, or?
Yeah, I guess you could. Or you just have it and again, if you're at the end of the day, just kind of wind down. Maybe if you're a cigar guy.
Oh yeah.
Similarly, just like a whiskey or bourbon, and excuse me, and just sit there and enjoy it. You definitely could. I don't know. I think some of the complexities, some of the higher priced premium rums or may not be as far as a meal worthy drink, I guess. So,
Gotcha.
but most of us are all remembering being on a cruise, getting the pina coladas and all that crazy stuff. So
yeah.
But yeah, there's actually a full thing where you can go like a sommelier, where you can go and be a rumlier. There's a whole certification program that you can get into, really get into rum and understand all of it. And you got to go through sampling and recommendations and things. So there's a way that you to test your skills on being able to recommend certain rums based on your type of taste.
Okay, well, next time I am down in the Florida area, there's palm trees. I'm going to order a rum old fashioned. I'll see. Hope they can make it. Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure it's good stuff, because I'm not going to knock. I'm not going to say the name, but there's a club that's bar on Beale Street that we were at this past week.
Yeah.
And rum is the name, so that may be given enough. But I was disappointed that there was not a better selection of rum in the. I know I'm in Tennessee.
Called Rum, yeah.
Right. So.
Well, maybe they also know their customer. They're like, hey, no one is ever reaching for the top shelf. Let's just sock it with this stuff here.
Yeah, that's why most of these bars are just beer, quick drinks, and that's in and out. And that's why, hey, great marketing, Captain and Coke, boom, super simple, right? It's because it's just what everyone knows, and that's what everyone says.
Yeah, that was the Lemmy drink. I think he did. Oh no, he was a Jack and Coke guy. I think, yeah, Lemmy every day.
Yeah. So it rolls off the tongue real easy. So, but yeah, there's a whole interesting world in the whole rum, just like a lot of other the spirits. There's a whole rum conference or convention thing coming up in a few weeks here in down in Miami, and so yeah, it's a kind of a real interesting thing. I've got invited to go to the Tampa Bay Rum Experience in May, so I'm going to be there broadcasting and kind of doing my thing. And kind of like a radio on live location, so that's going to be pretty cool and enjoying that. So
yeah,
yep. So yeah,
let me know if you make it to Tortuga, brother, and I'll I could meet you at a side fence and give you a big old hug.
You got it. So yeah, that's how the rum kind of plays off, and some people are like, well, I don't do one or the other, and I said, look, we don't have to talk about either one.
No, I learned something, man. I learned something. I'm more apt, like I think a lot of people, to drink it in a sunny environment,
Right. Oh yeah, for sure. There's but that's the other thing though, is all right, sorry, we're going to have a tangent.
But you live in paradise, so I mean, you could drink it every day if you want.
That is true. So this is another shout out there to So this is a product called Just Rum.
It's Just Rum, brought to you by Just Rum.
And this is a maple wood aged 3 years, 116 proof.
Wow.
And this is made in Oregon.
Nice.
So, yeah. So, I mean, again, you can always source from wherever, but ultimately distill it wherever also, too.
Well, let me ask you a question. I'm going to flip this. People, you don't even know what's going to happen. You're getting interviewed. How long have you been playing drums? Who were your influences? Are you playing now in a band?
All right, let's see here. So definitely, I've been on and off. Life happens, as you know.
Oh, sure.
I started off in high school, typical high school band. Nothing too serious. Even further back than that, I started off snare drum in elementary school, and my mom would always tell the story that she always knew what day of the week, what day it was, because I'd be practicing that morning before school.
Cramming.
So then we'd go off, and of course I lived in New Jersey, so carrying that big snare in the box and with a little dolly in the snow and all those things, and why couldn't you pick an instrument that was a little bit smaller, right? So fast forward then to high school, kind of got back into it, a couple buddies, and was mostly all just hard rock kind of stuff, and the rock genre, if you want to call it that. Then moved to Florida, kind of lost, just because now I'm resettling, trying to figure things out, rerouting. Didn't come back around to it until I moved to South Florida, where I'm currently at, in '99, and then got a house, and then got the drums, and it just kind of practiced and meeting up with other people. So it wasn't until probably the mid 2000s got to start playing a little bit more with other people, doing a couple shows, just local. So nothing too serious. We did
that's fun. You keep it fun, man. You know what I mean? It's like, I remember all the years of, owning an SUV, like a minivan, taking the seats out of the minivan, putting the carpet in the back of them, and schlepping and rock and rollering into the, the loading dock through all these hotels and banks and corporate parties and weddings, and playing at the airport, just saying yes to everything because, well, A, you love it, but B, you never know who's going to be on the job and who's going to say, hey, good job, kid, and throw your name around. So if you're trying to make it as a musician and that's your whole focus, there's a period of your life where you just have to say yes to everything.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of a little bit of what I did last week, in Memphis. Was every drummer that came off the stage, I was like, hey, do you want to be on a podcast? You want to be here? Hit me up, and
that's smart.
And just try to get guests, right? And it's cool when guests approach me, so I don't have to do all the chasing, So.
Oh yeah. Well, the beauty of social media is that you can use it as a gateway to a in-person, real-life relationship with somebody. You notice somebody on the socials, you take a stab at trying to send them a message. Hopefully they respond, they get back. You're like, of course I want to be on. I love Ram, And the next thing you know, you could meet in person, and then you could become actual friends that outside of the matrix.
Right. Yep. Yeah. It's weird when you meet somebody who it's like, yeah, I know a lot of people, but only a few people in person, right?
Yeah.
So
it's crazy.
Yeah, the drumming stuff there. Typical rock drummers. You probably you mentioned a couple of them, obviously Alex and Tommy Lee growing up and all that hair metal stuff. And I grew up in Sayreville, New Jersey, so three blocks over from John Bon Jovi's house, and
wow,
and hung out. His younger brother was the same age as me, and
incredible. Did you get to meet Tico?
I haven't met him. The funny thing is, he actually, I think, lives in Palm Beach County here, and I've been trying to get somebody to say, dude, this is so easy. You're right here. So
I could see him living in Florida. I think Tico's Cuban or something, or part Cuban. Or
yeah. He's really big into his art stuff, and so I think he's out there where there's a big equestrian community out west of where I'm at. So
nice.
But I think though I always seen occasionally from time to time though Jason seems to visit, I guess, where I'm at here
Jason loves Florida. He's all around that state. Whenever he can get there. Yeah.
Everyone's always posting, oh, look who's at this. So I won't say where because
totally.
All five of my listeners will listen. They'll be like,
No,
so
yeah.
yeah, but let's go back to acting there. You talked about the acting because, looking at your resume there you have on your website, I think it goes back to, seems like you're the type of person, once you've got something in your head, you are not letting go of it and you go full into it. And just look at that resume and then all the classes you've taken and the courses, comedy classes or the different things, you seem like you are all in once you're onto something, right?
I do, man. I get that thing in my head and I'm just like, I am not stopping. And that's that kind of persistence and tenacity that it takes to make it in something as difficult as the music business. And, for me, I don't know what's going to come of it. I've already accomplished a lot, basically in under 5 years. I'm mostly Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays in Los Angeles. I was able to get my SAG card as an actor. I'm a member of the Screen Actors Guild, and I get paid scale and all the living wages if I do an acting job. And, I did 2 horror films that were on. One was on Netflix. One went straight to hotel room rental. And then I was on a television show, and I got to kick the hell out of Christopher Maloney from, Law and Order, the bald brawny guy. And we filmed right there in Queens, New York. Fantastic. I mean, it was just a box I wanted to check. I always thought, I love sitcoms. I love horror films. And I was like, let me do this. Let me go swim with the sharks. Let me go get training at this place where every actor is a waiter and they're chasing their dreams. And when you're in the swimming with the sharks like that, you're going to get better faster, as opposed to and I studied here in Nashville. There's a scene here in Nashville, but there's something about that watering hole of sunny Los Angeles, the entertainment capital of the world. And it was really fun. I do realize years later that I don't have the time to do the 80 auditions a year that you need to do to get a pharmaceutical commercial or an independent film or a toothpaste commercial. It's I have relationships with people and I have a skill set. So the next time someone says, I have a friend in Los Angeles right now, he's he does a lot of film editing. He does things like Tonight on How I Met Your Mother. And he does trailers for ABC TV and independent films, and also a musician. So I play drums on all of his music. And then whenever you see a reel of mine, like my acting reel, my voiceover reel, my drumming reel, he does all my reels. He's got a film coming up, and it's dude, we're shooting it this year and you're going to be this guy, and we're going to shoot it in 2 days in LA. Your part in and out. I was like, boom. So I got a part this year and I didn't have to audition for it, which is great. You know? But all that stuff is nice, studying the ins and outs of voiceover, because the funny thing about voiceover, when you listen to somebody, is you're basically creating a character. Is it the hard sell, it's the Drums and Rum podcast brought to you by, or is it the Hey Neighbor kind of oh, it's the Drums and Rum podcast. We love it. It's just as great. So you have to be able to hit these kind of different characters and execute and speak clearly. And there's a technique to it all. And so studying thinking on your feet as an improvisational comedian, learning how to break down a script, create a character, hit your lines, hit your mark, say your lines, interact with another actor, be in the moment. All this stuff has really helped me as an educator, as an MC, as a speaker. Writing books helps you as a speaker. It all just kind of cross-pollinates. So I don't think it was time wasted. I really enjoyed myself. I mean, it cost a lot of money to do, but it's that idea. Hey, when you want to do something, you gotta go all in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's and a lot of people talk about that. Never have a plan B.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
my plan B was to just teach. You know what I mean? It's like they say that what's the saying? It's teachers teach because they can't play. Players play because they can.
Right.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
I do both. I like both. My backup plan was teaching, and I use my backup plan all the time. I mean, I have an offering called my Drum Tensive. It's my most popular educational offering. I've done 25 of these things. People will fly in from around the country. They send their wife shopping. They spend 7 hours with me at the Drum Pad, which is this beautiful teaching facility in Nashville. And I answer all their questions, address all their concerns, and then we dive into my deep curriculum. So that's rudiments, reading, chop development, reading the Nashville number system, learning how to create a chart, playing with clicks and loops, overdubbing percussion, career guidance, the basics of the music business. So by the end of those 7 hours, these people can move that ball further down the field and get closer to whatever their goal is. It might be getting a teaching job, getting a full-time touring job, moving to a city of their dreams and infiltrating that system as city, become part of that, or getting accepted to the college of their choice, graduating from that college. So it is so fulfilling, and I book these all the time.
So that I guess that kind of makes sense that we're into your writing also there, right? You got a couple books here, but obviously the one that's out, and you already mentioned making it in country music. You got a book for kids also, and then obviously the Crash book as well.
Crash Course to Success, yeah.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about that. So commitment, relationships, attitude, skill, and hunger. So I think you've already kind of just what you just said there, Rich, was a lot of what those 5 words are.
Yeah. Commitment, relationships, attitude, skill, hunger. So 5 things that literally any person in any season of their life can use to enjoy more success. And we all want to be successful. We all want to enjoy high levels of success. Everybody, of course, has their own definition of success or what success is. But, you have to commit to your craft, at least 10,000 hours. That's a great starting point. Relationships, everything in life, the gatekeepers are people. So you can't know enough people, and enough people they have to know you, right? And attitude, 98% of life, it truly is, people that have a positive attitude, they have more friends, they make more money, they live longer, they have a more enjoyable life. Skills, you have to identify and develop the skills you need to be successful in whatever your chosen field is. And then hunger is that final piece, having that fire that burns in your belly to be successful, and that realizing that passion is the engine, and then hard work is your fuel. You fuel that engine with hard work, and if you've chosen the right thing to be passionate about, it never feels like work, which allows you to roll up your sleeves and work harder. And the harder you work, the more people, places, circumstances, opportunities will cross your path. So you can use any one of these concepts, or you can use them together, kind of like in synchronicity, like the police, or in perfect synergy. I'm throwing around my SAT words today, and you'll be unstoppable. And so it's basically a 60-minute presentation that I do for, Fortune 100 companies. So your TriStar Healthcares, your Microsofts, your Hewlett Packards, your Cisco's, and, all these folks come to my event all buttoned up, and they're ready to see their dad's motivational speaker. And a guy comes out on stage and plays #1 hit songs and teaches them drum lessons, and there's comedy and there's storytelling and educational takeaways. And then the hour goes by like that. I'm sweating all over them, and they're like, what happened? It's just kind of a different take on the motivational speaker thing, Yeah,
no, it's definitely, it's one of those ways to differentiate yourself from the same thing where somebody's just getting up on stage and just talking, and you're injecting different levels of energy to kind of capture people's attention.
PowerPoint, no PowerPoint.
Yes, my PowerPoint, yeah. Well, I'll have to definitely the day job, which I won't get into, but I work for a company. It's one of those up there, the tops, and I know sometimes they have people come in and speak. So I'll have to definitely pass your info.
Let's do it, man. I'll send you my reel, and I kind of have a street team out there. I mean, that whole industry kind of runs on bureaus, and so I'm represented by so many speaking bureaus. And somebody will go to the bureau and they'll be like, hey, we're having a huge 2-day event in Nashville, and we want somebody that's a great speaker but still has like a fun entertainment edge, and somebody that's maybe a fabric of the Nashville scene. So I'm perfect for that kind of thing. And then there's other people around the country that are just kind of always looking out for me. They're kind of like my motivational speaking street team. And if they land something and get it past the gatekeeper, I pay them 10%. And it's a nice payday to maybe make a call or send an email on my behalf. So
yeah, for sure. No, I'll definitely we'll see if we can make magic happen.
Awesome, dude. Then you can get up and play drums at the event with me.
Well, funny you say that, as I have played drums at work before a couple times, believe it.
That's killer.
It is not a type of company that you would think that would be doing something like that, but it's definitely, we've had some events where a couple of friends of mine, all the same age, and we are known as like the work band because we all play instruments, and we do hang outside of work together, and we all work in the same office. So we played a couple times, and we have to remember, we're at work. So let's not do anything and drop the F-bombs, and it's gonna
get
us in trouble. So,
yeah,
for sure. So Yeah, we'll definitely we'll put all the links into for all this information in the show notes there. So on your show, I know you have the Fave 5. Okay.
Yeah.
So now we've got something similar that it's called in 4 beats or less.
Ooh.
So it's kind of like, I'm not going to give you the metronome and count you down and say, right, the first thing that comes here. So it's similar there. So so for drummers, obviously, and then obviously if a drum guest, it'd be 4 sips or less, but you're getting in 4 beats or less. So there you go. Pinky out. Don't forget pinky out.
Pinky's out for my Chardonnay.
Yeah. Spider-Man mug representing.
I know my gal brought me a cup of hot steaming coffee right before the interview and this gigantic Spider-Man. So you got to stay tapped into your inner child. You just do.
Yep. All right, Rich. So in 4 beats or less, I think you've already kind of covered this, but who's on your Mount Rushmore of drummers?
John Bonham, Keith Moon, Ringo Starr, and Charlie Watts.
Okay. All right.
There's 4 faces, right? Or is it 5? 4, right?
There's 4. And it's funny
Mount
you say
Rushmore?
that because I've had somebody ask, like, well, it's my Mount Rushmore, so I can have however many I want. I'm like, I guess that's true. I never actually stipulated the details of the question.
But it could also be if there's another mountain somewhere else in an alternate universe, it would also be Stuart, Alex, Kenny, and maybe like a Greg Bissonette, because he was such a great career model for me.
So so we're making references now to the multiverse.
Yeah.
All right. In 4 beats or less, number 2, favorite venue you've played at?
Hollywood Bowl. Oh, dude, it's classic. Hendrix has played there. The Beatles have played there. You're walking through those hallowed halls. It's not too big. It's like right in the middle of Hollywood, and all those Angelinos come out. The palm trees are swaying, and all the catering is great. You can get one of the few venues in the country, really, where you can pair a Chardonnay with sushi. Right there at the Hollywood Bowl. And when I was in LA for 5 years, I lived stone's throw from the Hollywood Bowl. So we always had free entertainment, even when we didn't go to the show.
We were out there last summer, and we went out there to go to Universal. And so it's right across the street, more or less, from the other side of the highway.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah, we didn't get a chance. We didn't stay long enough, but definitely there's a lot still more to see in LA. So all right,
yeah, you get on the 101 and you exit Barham, and then you get on the Cahuenga Pass, and then you're there at Universal. Yep.
That Universal is a heck of a lot more different than ours, because when we got there, we're like, all right, oh look, there's escalators going down to the next level and then down to the next level. Yeah, ours is just flat. There's no.
I still never been to Disneyland. I've been to Disney World. Yeah, gotta go. I gotta go.
World or land?
I've been to World, but not land. So Anaheim,
the one in
Anaheim,
yeah. So all right. So in 4 beats or less, number 3. This might be a tough one for you. If you had to give up one of the projects we've talked about, which would it be?
I could probably give up the voiceover, because it's a grind, and very seldom do you get like a really great paying job. But I love the skill set, and I've got some pretty decent pipes. So I've done like ads for like Sabian, and where they're like, hey, we'll throw you some pies if you do this voiceover for our ad. You know what I mean? So it comes in handy when people know that you're not afraid of a microphone, either recording or standing in front of an audience. Just having the gift of gab is a blessing. Thank you, God. You've got it. You got the gift of gab, man.
I know. Well, my wife says that I'll talk to a wall. So
I love that. Well, that means you're friendly. It means that you've never met a stranger.
I know. I'll talk to anybody. So
yeah. Are you in sales?
No, I'm not. Oh. No, I can. Sometimes I can go. I can get pretty quiet, and then there's times when I step out and I'm a little bit more comfortable. It's like if I show up to an event by myself, I'll try to be a little subtle, because I don't want to be that guy too soon. Just get a couple drinks in me, and then I'll be that guy. So, speaking of the voiceover work, are you familiar with Jim Mola?
Oh yes, yeah, the drummer.
Okay.
Yeah, of
Yep.
course.
Yep. So he's up in New York there, and we had him on last year, 2 years ago, and he talked a lot about some of the voiceover work he was doing
Oh, that's
as
great.
well.
He'd be a good guest.
Yeah. So, oh, you haven't had him on yet?
Not yet. No, there's so many drummers.
I know, right? It's so many drummers, so little time.
Good at. Psh.
In 4 beats or less, number 4, the craziest thing that happened at a gig.
This is kind of a fun one. Years ago, I was playing with Pam Tillis. I think it was 1999, and I'm lactose intolerant, and I was playing games that day. Somehow we were in Tillamook, and so we had Tillamook cheese. And then I barely made it through the gig, and then after the show, just went screaming off stage to the porta potty and just lit that sucker up, buddy. But so, anyways, I've taken it very seriously since then. My body cannot break down the lactase, so I keep this company Lactate in business. I keep that lab in business, and I always have them in my backpack, in my pocket. I pop those things like chiclets. For the most part, I just avoid dairy, But anyways, big mistake. I was playing with fire there, and it was not pretty.
That could have been really messy.
My band had fun with that at the time. The 1999 version of that band that I was in, woo! They razzed me for the whole other year.
That's gotta be really bad.
That's amazing.
Oh, that's so funny. So, as we start to wrap up here, I guess I'll ask you 2 questions on both sides of the show here, as far as the podcasting and drum. So, I guess what kind of tips did you give anyone who's a drummer listening? About just general tips and about whether it's the skills or how to keep motivated or how to improve or how to get better.
Yeah, keep the fire. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Figure out what your specific goals are. Write those things down. Tell yourself what those goals are first thing in the morning, right before you go to bed. The mind is very powerful at night. The mind will be chewing on that, and you wake up, you'll spring out of bed, and you'll try to get one step closer to your goals. I think it's very important to have enough technique for you to get a good tone on your instrument and to be able to express yourself. And then, study the greats. The instrument's only 100 years old. So if, like I said, you want to be a great rock drummer, you got to study Keith and Charlie and all the cats, and because good composers borrow, but great composers steal. So if something has worked before for someone else, steal that, make it part of your DNA. And since we're all so unique, you are going to manifest that musical idea in a different way. You're going to express it in a different way because we're all kind of like snowflakes. So one of a kind. So, and also just have fun. But at the same time, if you want to get from point A to point B, you really have to treat it like a business. There's a million guys that can go boom schmack, get a great sound, keep it in time. But it's really the other things like your attitude, your spirit, your likability, your ability to take direction from people and not be offended, and then show up with that firm handshake and that smile on your face. And like I said, treat it like a business, be on the socials, return your calls super, super quickly, have great sounding gear, be the first one to arrive, the last to leave. And it's a word of mouth business. So try to never have a bad day. Even if you're just a hobbyist playing on Friday and Saturday, there's so many drummers out there that you can't have a bad day. And everybody is filming nowadays. So everybody's a recording drummer. You're playing at the corner bar, you're getting filmed. It's going to be on YouTube. So you better sound good. So, treat it seriously, but have fun at the same time if you can.
All right. That's good. It's pretty simple. So definitely before we wrap up here, I know I mentioned to, acquaintance of ours that I was name dropping him, and when I was talking, we were going back and forth and talking. But so you remember?
Oh yeah, Pitch Slap. Oh my God, I love those guys, Trevor and man,
yep.
They're incredible. Have you seen those guys recently?
Yeah, well, actually, our both of our kids are in a robotics team.
Oh my God, a robotics team. What is that?
So in high school they have like a it's not like BattleBots, but it's a The organization's called First, and it's part of the whole STEM programs at the schools. And so the high school kids get together, they fully build a robot, program it, machine it, and all this stuff. And then they go and compete in regionals, and then the finals are in Houston in April, I think. And so they do all these competitions. And this year happens to be a little bit of a music style or theme, which was really cool. And then with Trevor, so I think they're trying to build out their little pit, their little area that they keep all their stuff in between matches. And said, we're going to make these Marshall half stacks, and we're going to put Marshall on it. And the name of the team is Mars. And I said, well, yeah, just color in red, MARS, and leave the Marshall part, right? Because that's Mars and Marshall, so forth. So,
Smart.
So yeah, so that's how I know Trevor through the kids.
And then Jeff, do you know Jeff too?
I haven't met Jeff yet. I've been over to their studio there where they practice and record stuff. Actually, I did an episode with Trevor, so it's somewhere out there.
Dude, Pitch Slap. I mean, that's an American product. It's all handmade. They're like mad geniuses, and I have so many. I have the laptop. Great way to like write songs and do campfire jams, and then they have all their multi-surface cajones, and they were so supportive of all my drummers' weekend drum camps. I did 4 of those, and they would come, they would fly in, they would put themselves up, and they would have all these giveaways for the kids. And great guys, man, great guys.
Yep, yeah. So I just wanted to not mention, bring it up and say, oh, I said, wait a minute, this is because he's told me the story before. And
Pitch Slap drums, great. So, I might need another laptop. Actually, I think one of my old business partners took it to the UK. So because I haven't seen it in a while, so maybe I'll reach out to Trevor. I'm like, hey, can I get a laptop?
Yeah, I'll let him know that you're coming to Fort Lauderdale here in a couple months, and maybe we should go down there and check it out.
Yeah, man.
Sure. So so in closing, Rich, what do you got? Final comments here. What do you want to plug, promote, etc. Here's your time.
I have a friend in Nashville calls me the promosexual, so I think I've actually done a pretty good job of steering the conversation toward all my products and services. I apologize, but yeah, if everybody just wants to go to richredmond.com, it's REDMOND.com. You can learn about everything I do. But 2 things come to mind. If you're an artist, a producer, a band, I have drum loops for sale at yurtrock.com, YURT. yurtrock.com. They're super affordable. They're state-of-the-art, high fidelity, easy to use. Or you can send me your files, and right here at Crash Studio on the other side of this laptop is a room full of drums, and I could record drums, send you the files. I did 10 modern rock tracks the other day. Boom, it ends up in your inbox. So easy to do. And then if you're somebody that wants to learn and grow and develop your skill set, hit me up and come to Nashville for a day. I teach during the week, 2 to 9 p.m., and I teach on the weekends from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's my drum-intensive 6 hours of hands-on training, and then we break bread in the middle, and it's on me. So if you want a burger, we get a burger. If you want a burrito, we get a burrito, and we get to spend 7 hours together. So richredmond.com is the hub for all things.
All right. Very, very good. No, that is pretty cool. So I always take a lot of inspiration, Rich, from when I had the drummers on to help me kind of, get the energy, give me energy back, and take little, tips and ideas to, again, with life and, and especially living here in Florida with hurricanes and the job. It's an integral to dealing with that kind of stuff. It's can be a bit of a challenging and then of course I've become a, you called yourself a promosexual, which is great. I'm gonna steal that. Love that line. I think I have a problem where I have like I can't stop, doing, because the creative aspect of the brain now is can't stop wanting to do other podcasts now. And I started doing another one with the guitar buddy I went to Memphis with.
Yeah.
Called Riffs and Rhythms. To just, again, like my show here, I'm by myself. I don't have a co-host typically. And where, like you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of work that goes into it, putting a show together, editing, and all these things. And this other one, Riffs and Rhythms, is just 2 guys just hanging out. We're talking music. We're talking about what makes the song better, the riffs or the rhythm. So let me ask you, Rich, and part of the closing here is also, what makes the song, the riffs or the rhythm?
Well, it depends on the genre. I mean, obviously, you need a steady beat so you can dance to it. I mean, that always worked for Dick Clark. That was his model. But you gotta, in rock and roll, you gotta have a riff. It's all about the riff. The riff is more important than the storytelling. And in Nashville and in country pop, country rock, southern rock, it's really the storytelling that is more important. And that's why in the mix, the vocal is so hot. Luckily, in the last 20 years, the drums in Nashville have gotten hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter. They're right up there. The kick drum is as loud as the vocal, but less about the riff and more about the melody and the story. So, but I like both kinds of music. I love rock and roll. Where you're just like, I love that riff. Flies in the Vaseline, do da do da do da do da do da do da. And then you listen to a great, you know, Brandy Carlisle song. It's got a great beat. It's in time, but the storytelling and the melody are what get in your ears like earwigs. So I think depending on the genre, there's a time and place for both.
All right. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. All right, Rich. I'd like to thank you for coming on the podcast, talking about drums, music, and and everything in between. Check out the Drums and Rums podcast. Give it a like, follow. It's important, as Rich knows. It's important for you to leave reviews and ratings. That's how other people find your podcasts. And follow us on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, and the YouTube page. Trying to move that YouTube page up there. Our website, also drumsandrubs.com. And thank you all for listening in, and have a great day. This is where the backbeats meets the spirits. Thanks all.